Welcome back to the Cocked Dice, back again for another painting update. This week has been an exceptionally busy week. We have, I can't even count these, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 figures finished in 7 days. As you may notice, there is a bit of a theme this week. I've got back into pulp gaming with some new solo rules called Perilous Tales, which you can find a couple of videos, back reps for on the channel. So I've dug out some varying models I've had in my collection for ages and been smashing through them this week just to try and get some options on the board. Let's see some of these guys up a little close. First up this week, every good pulp game needs some bad guys, and what's better than a bunch of somewhat sinister looking cultists wearing masks and hoods. Had these guys around for absolutely ages. I'm pretty sure they came from North Star Miniatures when they had one of their random bags of things. I grabbed a bag of bad guys, I suspect, and found all these cultists. There are clearly at least 3 different sets of models here, because this group's definitely one bag, and I think these were just 2 odd models from other ones. So a bunch of cultists with clubs, some sort of cult leader with a book, and if we just flip him around here, zoom in, there we go. Very, very tiny elder sign in there. I love the fat cultist here with his hands on his hips, and a single cultist armed with a pistol. Now, every good cult needs something to gather round and perform their ancient rituals. I'm a massive fan of having 3D markers for plot points and objectives, and so I managed to dig out a few more and base them up to match the rest of my collection on these 40mm MDF bases. These first 2 are both from Crooked Dice, not to be confused with our channel. They came in a Kickstarter the other year. There was a bunch of things from various films, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the little idly thing on the top there. There's an Ark of the Covenant. There's the book on a stand, there's a jewel on a stand, there's a whole bunch of very kind of pulpy objectives. I've just based them up on some 25mm bases, and then this one's had some plastic sheet added to it. This, just a bunch of grass and scatter. This third marker is actually a 3D print. I pulled from Thingiverse and printed out the other week. It's meant to be some sort of Elder God Cthulhu creature thing. When digging out ancient creatures and crawling around ancient ruins, you're soon going to be stumbling across all sorts of gribbly tentacled beasties, and here's one of them. This is some sort of Clicks model. Again, it's been in my collection for ages. I have no idea where it came from. Either it's one of the Whiz Kids or Wizard of the Coast kind of plastic PVC models from 10, maybe even 15 years ago. Bit of clean up, bit of green stuffing, stripped off his old paint scheme and just did a very, very swift, mainly contrast with some highlights, paint job on this guy, and then chucked on a bunch of washes just to give you this kind of nasty purpley reddish tone to it. Now, when delving into the back of Beyond and down to strange villages where people have slightly larger eyes and slightly scaly skin, you need some sort of deep ones. Now, I didn't have any deep one models, so I've borrowed these Silurids from Malifaux. Again, I picked them off eBay for dirt cheap. There seems to be quite a lot kicking about, and gave them a fairly simple paint job. I went with pretty natural colours on these, green and bonish kind of colour, again with plenty of very thinly glazed Caribou Crimson just to give them a bit of colour, and very pink tongues and teeth. So they should make pretty good bad guys for when I do some Cthulhu themed games. Another Crooked Dice model. This came from the same Kickstarter that the Idols did before. This is Ginger. She's a new hero for my team, or heroine, I suppose, if you want to be politically correct about this. Let's try and get this photo in. Contrast paint job with some highlights yet again. some fairly badly drawn on makeup, which yet again makes one of my female miniatures look like a man in drag. Someday I'm going to learn to paint women's faces, but not today. Nice contrasty kind of colours. Love the ginger hair. It went really nicely with the green dress. Yeah, not a lot to say about this. She's already seen action on the table and done pretty well for herself. And finally this week, I'm still slogging away on the Batman 3rd edition set, back to Gotham. This week I finished off Commissioner Gordon and Harvey Bullock. Let's give some close-ups of these guys. Here's Harvey with his rather delicious looking donut and coffee. Tried to make him look fairly scruffy, went with quite a patchy, washy set of highlights, make it look like a bit of a grubby shirt, lots of browns thrown in there, just as glazes, and again the kind of tie highlighted it off with kind of skinnish tones. Went with, I think this is corn red, highlighted through into Tuscar fur and dwarf flesh, something like that. Give it that kind of slightly faded, grubby look. I'm quite impressed at how he came out. And of course, Commissioner Gordon. I love the pose. I love him. I'll just try and get my thumb out of the way here. Love him kind of leaning against the old brick wall. I suspect he's lighting a cigar though with a Zippo lighter. At least that's kind of how I painted it. Not overly massively fan of how I did the spectacles. They've come out a little sharp. He looks like he's wearing some sort of Caped Crusader mask. But on the table he should look fine. Oh, there we go, sorry. And then a bit of scatter and rubble round. So he's got a Coke can at the front and a pair of Joker's teeth around the back. So with this bunch done, I'm pretty impressed with myself this week, and I'm going to have to try even harder next week to beat this again. My 3D printer's been on overtime for the last 5 or 6 days, churning out extra bad guys, animals, terrain, all sorts of stuff. And I've still obviously got the Joker side of the Back to Gotham box set to do. Thank you very much for joining us once again. Please come back in next week for another update and check out our channel for other videos. Like, subscribe and click on the little notification button and it'll tell you when some new content's up. Goodbye for now.